That's just not going to get old, is it? She's alive! It's alive! It's alive! Just for you, Arts Corner. So yes, hello, welcome back to Cardboard and episode 8 in the Project Fox Repair series, which feels like it's been going on forever, but thankfully we're nearly at the end. Obviously, hope everyone's doing well out there in these COVID times that we are still living in. If you're in the UK, especially in Scotland, we're still in pretty much a full lockdown, which isn't due to end for about another month, which kind of scuppers my plans somewhat for getting videos filmed soon, but yeah, we'll work around that. But today's episode, it's slightly different to what's been going on over the last couple of episodes. As you might remember, Scarlett's bumper was, well, trashed by the Fox and it needed to be repaired. Now, there was two avenues that I could have went down. One, attempt to fix it myself with some duct tape and some paint from B&Q and then say, yeah, that'll do. Or option 2 would have been to scurry around online, find a replacement bumper and then get it resprayed at a horrendously expensive price and then put that on the car. Thankfully I didn't have to choose either of those options because my good friend Phil stepped in and saved the day, and as much as he's now probably regrets it, he took Scarlett's bumper on to get it back to looking 100% again. I can only thank him endlessly for what he's done for that bumper, because he didn't have to do it, he didn't even have to offer it, and I can honestly doff my cap to him. So today's video is slightly different, obviously. I know that some people might think it's a cop-out that I didn't do it, but to be totally honest, it's the focal point of the car, and I know my limitations, and my limitations didn't stretch to the point where I could comfortably do the repairs to the bumper and then, you know, be happy to put it back on the car. I couldn't bring myself to do it. And yes, I know the whole idea of a project car, do as much of it as you can yourself. Look, I've done a lot of it. There's just this one thing that I can't. It was one of those things where you hit a mental block and you go, no, I just can't deal with this. This has to be farmed out somehow. And like I said, thankfully Phil stepped in and saved the day. So, coming up over the next 15 minutes, you will see one man's descent into I wish I never agreed to this. As Phil takes us through from start to finish how the bumper got repaired. And just before we cross over to Phil, there's one thing I do need to mention, which is rather embarrassing actually. It's something that I never thought about in the past, but my name has never actually really been mentioned on the channel since it flicked over to Cardboard, which was almost a year ago. So for anyone who doesn't know, my name's Elliot, okay? Because Phil mentions it quite a few times during this next 50-minute block that's coming up. So just to make anyone aware who doesn't know and they're going, who's Elliot? The car's name's Scarlett. Yeah, that's me, I'm Elliot. So obviously some people might have already known that, but there will be people who didn't know, so yeah, if you didn't know that, now you do. So anyway, on to today's feature presentation, and I'll hand over to Phil now, and this will be one man's descent into absolute madness. Enjoy, I'll see you at the end. So here we have Elliot's bumper here. As you can see, it's very slightly gubbed. I don't know if you can see the paint's all flaking off as well. And I've already removed the splitter, which has a huge chunk out of it. That could be fun to fix, but we'll give it a shot. So what I've done already is, I don't know if you can see it, I've cleaned up either side of the split just with rough sandpaper.
and there's actually another split down here. So what I'm going to do is clean all that with paint thinners, or degreaser, sorry. Get all that cleaned up, and then I'll get all prepped for a wee couple of coats of fiberglass. I think that should hopefully hold it all in place. I don't know if you can see, but there's a multitude of holes. Christ knows how many bumpers this thing has had fitted in different places. So what I'm going to need to try and do is fix them up as well. So what I've done now is I've drilled wee holes in it and then just zip tied it all together. It's just so as I can keep all my edges together while I lay the fiberglass. So I'm going to put tape over the outside now, so hopefully the fiberglass will run through the cracks and bond it right in the middle as well, and then we'll get the zip ties off once the fiberglass all taken, and hopefully we can start sorting all the painting crap. Right, so I forgot to set up the camera when I was doing the fiberglassing, so I've already fiberglassed, I'm afraid, but I don't know if you can see it. There is 2 coats of fiberglass there. That's a crack there. There's 2 coats of fiberglass on with maybe a 2.5–3 inch overlap either side of the crack, and all the holes that were there for the bumper. So what I've did is I've just fiberglassed over all of them as well, because all the filler that was in just actually fell out. I don't know if it was because the bumper was so flexible or I felt like going fox hunting, but I've put a proper mat over the back of that, and it all seems to be pretty hard, so at least now I've got a proper base to fill the front in on, and it will give it something to stick to. If you're interested in the fiberglassing, it is basically mix up your fiberglass resin with hardener and you get fiberglass mat. So you just cut that to size, just put a coat of fiberglass resin in, set a mat on top of it, and then get more fiberglass resin on the brush, brush it over, dab it all in, make sure there's absolutely no air bubbles, and then repeat for as many layers as you want. So that's basically that. So what I'm going to do now is, as you can see, it's actually taken pretty good because I can hold it. So I need to cut these off obviously, and then I've got the holes to fill, and then we've got all this nasty paintwork to try and tidy up. See it better in the light on this side. See, it's all cracked, so with it being a plastic bumper, I'm kind of worried about what grade of paper I can use on it. This is 180 grit, but it is quite coarse, but I need to use it coarse to get it at least semi even. But we'll see how we go. That's tomorrow's problem. I'm going to let this fiberglass set properly overnight, and then we'll take it from there. Right, I have no clue if this is going to work at all because of the huge chunk that's missing out of the splitter. So what I've had to do to get the shape is I've actually bolted it all back in place. I don't know if you can see the bolts there. A couple of wee clamps, more bolts and another clamp. Now I've actually fiberglassed it in. So what I'm going to need to do is trim this fiberglass here, and then once all that is dry, I'm going to need to try and turn the splitter over and fill this side, so as I have something to actually put filler in and see if we can fill the hole. I'm really not confident of this one working actually, but we'll see how it turns out. So that's the repair. It's the split bumper, and as you can see I've started sanding, try and blend in all the cracked paint and stuff, and I've refilled the holes that the filler all popped out. So yeah, progress. That's hopefully all the rough sanding done. Maybe get a wee bit fine filling done, and then another light sand, and then be a light sand all over this time, and then hopefully some filler primer just to get rid of any wee pinholes and stuff, and then we'll take it from there. Right, so sorry for being slack, I'm not really used to trying to video stuff what I'm doing. So this is Elliot's bumper now. So the split was, I don't know, maybe somewhere about here. So as you can see, it's been filled, sanded, primed, filled, sanded, primed. I was just doing the filler primer, and much to my disgust, I don't know if you can see it or not, my spray paint gun has a split in the can for holding the paint. So I've managed to get a few runs on here, so I'm really not impressed. Also, when I was doing it, I've noticed a few bits that I've either missed or scraped or something. So I've got wee touches of filler in. So I'm afraid it's going to be sand, paint, repeat again. But all in all, it's looking pretty funky. Impressed with the results. And for his splitter, so yeah, there's Elliot's splitter. You can see some of the repair right on the very bottom though, so I'm really not too fussed because that's going to be all under the car. Just mainly the 2 divots and a couple of coarse sandpaper marks. But yeah, looks like my paint's cracking. And we need to give that another wee light rub and a couple of coats of paint. But the split was somewhere around here, all the way down, and then the big chunk missing was there, right around to there. So what I did, I had to fiberglass a bit of metal in the back yet. It's only lightly fiberglassed in because if Elliot decides to go fox hunting again, I would rather that chunk fell out than the whole splitter pulled off. So yeah, progress so far. Like I say, probably tomorrow we'll hopefully get a bit more sanding done on this, and we'll see how we go. That's looking not too bad at all. That's where the crack was, somewhere around there. So it's just a case of leaving it for a long time now, let the paint all settle and harden. But yeah, it's looking not too bad. Hopefully, oh, don't know if you can see that, there's a bit of dust got ingrained into it there. Hopefully that will polish out. But yep, a bit orange peel, but hopefully after the paint's all hardened then we can colour sand it and polish it up. Looking not too bad though. A bit of final finishing to do now. If we go up close, you see all the wee dimples on it, like called orange peel. Now every car from the factory has it, but not as bad as this. So what we're going to do today is colour sand it down and polish it up, and hopefully that's it all finished. So we'll see how we go. So what we're going to do is use very fine sandpaper, 1000 grit, 2000 grit, 3000 grit, and then you've got things like this polishing compound, should be another one somewhere, and then we've got anti-swirl pre-waxing glaze, oh, another polishing compound there. And then we've also got a very fine polishing compound. So what we'll do is we'll go with the coarse one, medium, and then fine. Then we'll put on the polish once all the sanding's done. So that's had a very light sand with 1000 grit sandpaper. So I don't know how well you can see it on this, but basically all the dull bits is the high spots getting taken off. So if you compare that to, say, that side, then you can still see all the glossy, but it's high spots. Whereas that, the high spots are coming off now. So I'm not going to bore you and film all of this. I'm just going to carry on. I'll get it done, and then I'll try and remember to switch the camera on for the next stage. So what I'm going to do is, this is 1000 grit. I'm going to give it all a once over with 1000 grit, and then I'm going to move down to 2000 grit to get smaller scratches on it, and then after that I'm going to move down to 3000 grit to get even smaller marks on it, and then the buffing compound should take out the 3000 grit marks, and hopefully I can do it all without cutting through corners. These bits here, the channel, any edge is very easy to cut through the paint, because obviously I'll be sanding in here, and I'm sanding here, sanding here and sanding in here, so basically this bit could get rubbed down twice and it will end up cutting through the paint too much. Just to show you what I mean, this corner on the Capri, you've got the ridge right down the bonnet here. So this corner on the Capri, you can see right on the corner, it's actually, I've started cutting through it. Luckily enough it's not too noticeable from a distance, but you can see what I mean. So that's had sanded with 1000 grit, and I don't know how clearly you can see it, but there is still wee dimples there. But by the time I go over it with 2000 and then 3000, hopefully we'll come to, this has been done with 3000, so there is still minute dimples there, but by the time we've polished it, hopefully you can see the gloss there. So that's just sanded, that's polished. So I've also polished this bit, but I don't know how close I can get. There are still dimples there, so I'm going to give that another couple of coats of rough cut polish, and we'll see how it goes.
So there you have it. That is pretty much chapter and verse how Scarlett's bumper got repaired. And again, a massive thank you to Phil for doing that. As I said at the start of the video, he didn't have to do it, and I am so ridiculously beyond grateful. So yeah, again, Phil, thank you so much. He will actually probably be featuring on the channel again in the future when we take Scarlett and his Capri out for a drive. It's going to be fun. But anyway, back to today and Scarlett's bumper. As you will have been aware there wasn't a full reveal of the bumper. Well, who am I to stand in the way of that, because the bumper is back on the car. Do you want to see it? You think I'm going to give it up that quickly? No, you'll have to wait till the next episode when I do the actual full reveal. In the meantime though, feel free to check out the latest videos on the series over here and subscribe somewhere over there. And as always, take care, and I'll see you on the next one, which will be Scarlett back on the road. Need to get that smile off my face.